All right, we're back. Okay. So, apologies for that. We are back. Now I've restarted the computer. I'm not using that Intel graphics card anymore. I'm now using the NVIDIA graphics card. And hopefully that will stop any further issues. We'll see. Is this the first time using the ARC? I think it might. No. It's not the first time I've used the ARC. I've definitely been using it for offline stuff, and I think I used it, but I updated the drivers today, and I think that really is what's caused some sort of issue here. I'm on the latest version of OBS. It could just be that the drivers have suddenly just kind of decided to play no. So, anyway. There we go. Oh, great. And now the copyrights have come through already. Anyway, that's fine. Right. That is pretty decent. Compared to Bong City. And what I'm probably going to do is end up cutting that a little shorter even in terms of the releases in the mids. Because my next trick is sending that to the reverb. Which is a gated reverb. So apart from the toms, which will stay off for the minute, let's see where we're up to. Yes, so that reverb is hardware, Mike. It's a, at the bottom, Yamaha Rev 7, a real reverb that's on Ascend. Give it reverse reverb. You don't even have a computer. So let's keep the theme of the 4000 series going. And put the EQ pre-dynamics and something I've definitely learnt. I've definitely learned with things like snares, if you put an EQ before dynamics, do not be afraid to smack it quite hard. Like there's no samples in here yet. There's no big size on the snare yet, but that's another little trick I'll do in a second. But this reverb send doesn't quite fit. That sounds out of time. It needs... oh. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Oh, wait. We need to have the ping detect on the reverb while it's in bypass. There we go. Because the delay as part of the reverb is the pre-delay. Well, it's kind of expected. Now, one thing, I wasn't quite happy with the no drums mix. So earlier I was playing around with sticking it through the SSL stuff, which is at the very top of the screen there, which I'm just going to add reinsert. I know you can't see this, but let's just add that on. It's on 8.7 and 8 because it's going through the SP8 and ping detect. Boop. Because that was, there's a little bit the SSL style compression, like you've been seeing basically this, but in hardware format over there. So I've been running the stereo, everything. So let's get these toms into a folder. I don't know if they need any work, but we'll soon find out, because with the gates on them, we might. I'm just gonna send them to the reverb too. Why not? They are way too loud. Can't you make it bigger? Use a DI box. What are you talking about? And the other thing that I'm going to do before I do anything else is I've got a separate track at the end, which is just behind my head, which is snare room, which I'm just going to move over to the left side of the screen, which is an unusual routing, but you'll see why in a second. And I'm going to use, I'm going to save. I'm going to send just the snare top. And I'm going to trigger just not a snare sample, but a room sample. And so, bad audio room. What are you talking about, man? So I'm gonna find. I think it's the Billy Decker ones I like. There's a audition. Yeah, that. Because that is not a snare sample. That is literally just use floating room. Go away. This is now just a sample that should trigger only on the hits. So if I blend that in, Now I'm going to switch to the other headphones and listen to this on a system that doesn't have a lot of low end and see how the high end's doing. This is sounding pretty good. There's some small details that I think I'll work on in a minute. Yeah, this is coming together relatively quickly. There's a lot going on. As you can see, there's a lot of lights flashing when I hit play. But I'm not sure why someone's describing floating floors in the chat, because this is a mix stream and not a tracking stream. I got sent this to mix. I didn't record this, and I'm not sure what relevance floating floors have to mixing. I'm hearing, I think, that the low end on the kick is going whoa, 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 whoa. So I think I need to just tighten down the low end on the kick gate. There we go. So all I've done there is the hold and release, which is how long a gate holds open, and then the release of how quickly it falls off. I've tightened that up a bit. So if I solo the low end of that, yeah, I'll still soften the attacks. It's a bit clicky, but yeah, that's now much less. It's digga-digga-da. Yeah, Mike Mallion is incredible in terms of consistency. This is a one take. This wasn't even comped. This playthrough is a single take. He is so good. Yeah, he's more than a bit good, Mike Marlian. I am hoping that I can get him to record the drums for my album when that time comes, but I have left a little bit of the bop on the bottom there from the kick in the snare mics, but I don't think that's an issue. I mean, that's the toms. That's how clean they are. And also, again, to keep in mind, yeah, well, that's the other thing about Mike is he doesn't tickle toms. He smacks them. He's got his technique down to a fine art. If he's hitting them, he's hitting them from up here, still using the perfect like basketball technique, the American technique, and he's really like, he doesn't tickle anything, which is why his separation is incredible. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, this is, yeah. Well, although you say that, I can see why you would say that, but if I turn off the gates, this is the low end resonance from the rest of the kit because he's smacking the kick and smacking the snare. That's the ring on the toms. And suddenly, practically gone. Because without, it sounds great, but there's so much it's unusable. Because the rest of what you're hearing is the rest of the kit resonating in sympathy with him smashing the life out of it. But it's so cleanly recorded that when we gate it, you get those cinematic toms. And look how much EQ is on the toms. None. Look how much compression is on them. None. I've got a little bit of the gated reverb on them. And actually, I do want to EQ the top toms a little bit. So again, my cheat is the 4000E series, pre-dynamics. Turn up the compressor a little, so I'm EQing into it, and then just a little bit of top. And a little bit of too much, way too much. More than anything, I want to duck out some of that kind of 600 hertz honk. And then just, I can turn that tom back up a bit now, and I'll just copy that across to the second tom and see how that does. Because that might do it. Because those two floor toms, they're done. They're just done. Now, the snare originally had quite a lot of ring. This is it without the gate. And this is it with. Now, I might bring a bit of that back in the mix. A bit too much low end in those toms. Yeah, that higher floor tom actually needs a little bit less ring on it. And again. So a bit less hold, a bit more release. So it's got more of a taper. There we go. Because as great as that sounds, if it goes on too long in the mix, it makes things difficult. Something sounds wrong in that snare now. The under snare is a little too much. I think it's time to introduce the drums. Let's introduce this whole thing to the Elysia X filter, because I've been dying to use this thing. And it's an EQ, but it's a very, very nice analog EQ. So let's see how we do with ping. Yep. Right. So it does turn the levels down overall, so I'm going to have to move over and just tweak that a little bit. So good. Yeah, I don't tend to worry about peaks too much because I don't tend to go near them. But yeah, let's try this in context. There is something about the kick that needs a little bit of EQ molding. Just using a basic EQ. It's a little bit too wub and not quite enough thump. So let's find those spots and just mold it. Really make it a narrow bandwidth. A little bit less of that, thank you. And a bit more. Quite a lot more of that. Oh, we're going to have to automate the volume on those floor toms on that section to come down a little bit, because as wonderful as that low end is, flipping heck, that's a bit much. It's great when it's just a hit. It's a little too much when it's a constant section. Oil Slick GUI? Oh, the God Particle. The God Particle is an incredible plugin. I now love it. Yeah, the God Particle, it really does just add something. Without it, listen to this. I think I'm just going to have to, as much as I hate to do it, just bring up an EQ on these toms and just bring like 200-ish hertz and just take a couple of dBs off them. Because as much as I love it, it's too much. Especially with the boosts going on with the other EQs. That was where the low bands were. I was literally turning the low bands down. Yeah. Okay. Good point. I could have done that in the. I'll do that in here actually. Good point. Thank you very much. I'm literally just taking the low end woomph down by a few dB on those toms. But yeah, the other thing to keep in mind, Finalizer plugins never work. Disagree. I replaced my signal chain of an optical compressor, a VCA compressor, a mastering EQ, a stereo widener thing, threw it all out for God Particle. Honestly, I've been doing this for 20 years and it works for what I do, to qualify it, better than any other master signal chain that I have had in years. And I constantly mess with things. But yeah, to have a blanket statement like Finalizer plugins never work, that just means you've never got a mix to the point where you are happy with it to the point where the Finalizer can do the last 5%. So let's listen to this from the top. Like I was going to say, keep in mind, this mix is specifically a drum playthrough mix. So it's very drum forward. It's very unusually full of drums, and they are masking the other instruments a bit, kind of on purpose, and that's okay because that's the intention this time. They don't describe exactly what it does, but it's got some sort of multi-band things going on inside it, and there is some compression in there somewhere. And I don't need to know what it does, because it does all the things I've been chasing, and I move on. Well, thank you, Mike. But I mean, without tooting my own horn, this is how the mix as a drum playthrough sounds without God Particle. And then here's it with. Yeah, so it really is the last mile, so to speak, where like right now without it, the kicks are like sat on top of the mix and things like that, which if I didn't have it on, I would balance and adjust accordingly, but I'm kind of mixing into it and it's doing the things that my original master chain would have done. And so I had that on right from the beginning of the several crashes stream. And so now I'm just listening through to see if there's anything stands out that shouldn't, and if there's anything that feels wrong. Would you still use Ozone if you had this? Well, it depends. For mastering, probably. But Ozone does a very specific set of surgical things that God Particle simply doesn't do. It does one thing. And if that one thing works for the mixes you've made, then it's great. But if you've already got, say, an old mix and you're trying to make it sound better, God Particle doesn't do that. So, you know, yeah, it really depends on what you have and what you're trying to achieve. So, yeah, if I had a mix and someone said make it sound good and I just tried slapping that on, there's a very good chance it wouldn't do anything. Now, let's listen through this and see where we get to. And I'm playing it from further back so that all the plugins have time, sorry, the hardware has time to do its thing. lacks bass, but you're listening on a phone. Okay, let's just ignore that then. Still something going chish, chish, chish. Let's just find it. There we go, that's better. I can probably bring the distressors in now. The distressor is the one that's got the ch going on in its top end. That's what's hurting me on the other. Lots of vocal tracks. It's not the hi-hat. Tell you it's not the hi-hat because the hi-hat's not being used in that entire section. Now it's yeah, it's a lot of vocal tracks, but I don't have those to hand. This is the drum playthrough mix. To be fair, the hi-hat also did have some nastiness, but this is the thing now that I've got all the elements together, it's a game of inches, and it really is about just fine tuning. Like on the Austrian audio headphones there, I'm kind of liking the mix, but it's not quite there in terms of the snare. I might need to pull a trigger in underneath. Just not because the snare sounds bad. It doesn't at all. It sounds incredible. But what I need is just a tiny little bit more consistency underneath. And I'm talking like 10%. So what I'm gonna do, I've already got the Andy Wallace snare room trick, which is that kind of womf 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 thing. And so I'm just gonna make another copy of that, but this time it's gonna be a far more egregious sample. It's gonna be a really obvious, really nasty kind of, oh my god, that's disgusting kind of snare sample. Where are you? That one. I think that's the one. And the thing is now, I don't really want much of that, if any at all, but then just bringing it in. If I turn it off, it almost sounds exactly the same. And that's the thing with me and drum triggers, where I can, if it sounds good, if it's right. We've just been through this whole process. It's a tiny little bit, so that if there's a slight inconsistency on the real drum hit, it just kind of bolsters it and just props it up, which, I mean, Mike's an incredible drummer, but he's a human. And so now... So I've set something on the gate to be a little too short on those holds, because it goes doot, which is indicating Things left to change is that I'm not happy with that reverb on the gated reverb setting. Yeah, no, don't like that. Let's go back to vocal plate, which is still, it's an 80s vocal plate, so it's very, that's better. Much more happy with that. Cool. What you may not have noticed what I was doing there. Partly I was just checking everything and showing you the outboard stuff. But the kick I wasn't quite happy with because I'd kind of had to do a really low cut and then a big kind of bump. And I thought, hang on, why am I doing that after everything when I should really be doing that beforehand? So I turned that off and then kind of changed the low EQ to a bell and did pretty much exactly this, but just in the EQ that I already had rather than doubling up and causing myself phase problems. So now it hits harder. Less EQ is always better if you can do it that way, and I just kind of got ahead of myself earlier. Let's listen from the top. So I just noticed there was a bit of a k in the top, so I changed the EQ on the germanium EQs, which is the purple one, from 10K to 16K, and then just moved it up out of the problem area. And yeah, don't be trying to suggest to me where I should mix, please. This is you guys watching me in my process. It's not kind of, oh, you should do this, you should do that. No, because then we'll mix by committee and nothing will get done right. So yeah, snare up by 3 dB, not a chance. It's already plenty loud enough in the headphones where it doesn't come across very well. So if it's not loud enough for you, that's a personal preference thing, and it's not mine. So let's listen through this twice, once on these super bright headphones and once on these other ones, and that should be fine to render out and listen to on mobile devices and stuff. And then offline tomorrow morning, I'll probably do some tiny tweaks, but hopefully this should be just about it. Right, I've just decided going to do what I did with the snare trigger with the kick. Not because it sounds bad, it sounds great, but this is just a consistency thing. And so what I'm going to do is quickly just load in a really... yeah, I'll just add that on the kick. Done. Just on every kick. Just done. You are more than welcome to ask questions of do you think it would work if, why not, all that kind of stuff, because I'm happy to answer questions. Because in fact, once I've done this, I will show you why it's a bad idea when we get to that point. I still don't know what you meant by after trans by auto, but anyway, let's find a disgustingly oomph kick. Andrew Wade stuff's not so good for that. Nope. I'm using the wrong headphones for this. The other ones are the ones with the beef. Because what I'm looking for is a consistent... that one. Because we already have that kind of thing with the beach ball low end. What I'm looking for is something to consistently fill in the mid-range. Right, that's not right because that phase is all over the show. So what I'm going to do is move this onto here and just use the mix. There we go. So yeah, no, that ain't it. That's not doing what I had in mind. Audition. I think the black album kick might be the one. Just a tiny percentage. Yeah, that's just adding a little more consistency level-wise. Yeah, good question. Why did I go with snare room samples? It's something that Andy Wallace has done for years. So the snare room sample can be a big 3D thing that doesn't have to be EQ affected with the main snare, and it just gives a size. So this is the snare with that room. Well, this is it without. So yeah, if I mute all of my samples on the snare and kick now, it'll sound good. Yeah, that sounds good. And then if I turn my snare triggers on, it just sounds bigger, but in a way that is separate from the main articulation of the drums. So yeah, as Mike, let's talk about Reaper said, it really is an extra thing that makes the thing sound like it's not right in the middle of your head anymore. It's kind of a big snare. But if that feels too much, if it feels overbearing, if it feels noticeable, I can ride the volume of that room thing separately from the snare mic. And it's not the same as the room mics with the drum kit, because they're full of cymbals and wash, and they bring a size to the drum kit, but that's the overall kit. The separate snare room trick that I got from Andy Wallace is very much just about the snare and making it pop out. So that's something you only do if you like the original snare sound. I pretty much do it all the time. If I don't like the original snare sound, then, well, tough. I try and be as authentic as possible with it. If it's really bad, like if it's badly recorded, then we get into full trigger territory. But I really try and avoid that if possible. But that's, yeah. Yeah, so for the kick, I think I ended up using the black kick, which is, yeah, the trigger to whatever the platinum or whatever it is that comes with it. For the snare, they are drum shots from Drumforge. The Billy Decker stuff. I love the Billy Decker stuff because it's so disgustingly, like, it's a sample. Like, it's not trying to be subtle. Hi, Scott. And so when I use it, it has its desired effect, which is bringing up usually like the lows and the highs and the stuff that the main snare isn't usually providing. Can I explain how Trigger 2 works? Well, you drop it on, you drop samples in, and it listens to the sound and plays a trigger. And then you can mix it in and you can have multiple triggers, and that's about it. When would you replace something entirely on drums? When I've been sent something to mix and the original track sucks. Whether the drum is completely out of tune, or whether the microphone's been pointed so badly that there's so much bleed that it's practically unusable, or they've just hit the drums like a little bitch, you know, just like ming 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 when it's supposed to be doof doof. You get that a lot with like death metal drummers, where they'll tickle drums when they want a powerful sound, whereas a guy like Mike, who's hit the kit like this is with no samples on the toms. That's how they're supposed to sound. So yeah, am I using the loopback on the Evo? No, I'm using Restream as described. I'm using Restream on a local broadcast for Mike and for the Reaper nerds. So OBS is picking that up, and I've got an application audio capture source, which doesn't actually work, but I've got the Restream receiving it on there, which means that I don't need to then take up any other kind of audio interface slots in OBS. Oh yeah, tom buzzing. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Scott's absolutely right with the kind of toms when it should be a bah kind of thing. So yeah, let's listen to this song all the way through with all the hardware stuff. See if anything bad stands out to me now.
Trapped us
cool. That's pretty good. I wasn't quite happy with the snare sound there, so it was a bit papery, a bit chack, chack, chack. So I was messing with the top end of the EQ, and so I realized it was just that the under snare mic was too loud. And so I took that down a couple of dB. Then it sounded a little soft, so I brought the high end back and cranked the threshold on the compressor, which also makes up the gain on an SSL comp. And that seems to have done what I was looking for. So let's play it back from earlier on. Cool. So yeah, now it's just the tops. Now I've switched back to the bright headphones. There is definitely some overbearing ch-ch. I brought Soothe back a little bit because it felt a little bit mushy on the other headphones. But let's just look at some of these elements. Right, so what I'm going to do is just eliminate the high end from the room mics just with filters. Because I think what's happening is the high end, the ultra high end is coming in from too many sources, so it's making it confused. So let's try it now. Much better. Much better. Let's try it in context. I just thought my headphones sound a bit dark. There's a weird bug at the moment in Sonar Works where I've got high-end lift on here, and if I don't open it up and check, then it's not actually engaged, which is really stupid. But this is sounding better. I'm going to bring some low mids back in on the overheads. Let's see what that does. Yeah, you can definitely pick out what's happening on the kit a lot better now that I've just kind of put the mids back in the overheads, which is not a usual mix thing. It's, yeah, the drums are now quite a lot more forward than they would be otherwise. But yeah, really needed for this video. I'm interested to see what Mike, let's talk about Reaper Mike's single snare hit that's getting him. Oh, it's something that's a little early, right? Okay, well that makes sense. I've turned off the gate actually for the snare, which is a bit weird, but Malian did say to me that there were a few hits in there that he wasn't particularly happy with, but because it was a one take, he just rolled with it, which I thought was quite good of him because it is literally a one take performance. The comp for the album, he did like 5 takes and comped it, and it was fine. it's sounding really good. I'm quite happy with it. Yeah, I mean, the snare is a combination of a really well-tuned snare that when you hit it with this, he will have put fresh heads on 5 minutes before the performance, which makes a big difference. Smacks it like an absolute champion. The Lewitt MTP 440 mics are really good, because they're hypercardioid. They reject so much background stuff. All of these things add together to give you this big, just like bong, and then just nothing in the background. I mean, this is with the SSL console. I turned off the gate on the snare. It's still on the toms and the kick because it really is needed there. But here, turn off the triggers. That's after compression with no gate. That's ridiculous. Actually, I might just mute that, do the Dan Weller thing of bringing the trigger over onto the snare track and just blending it in that way. Okay, telling me I need to sleep on it. That is it. Goodbye. I don't have time to sleep on it with mixes. This is the mix. This is it. It is done. So, yeah, the reason I've moved the drum trigger that's not the room trigger to the snare track is that Dan Weller, who's a producer that I know, reckons that it's more phase coherent if you do that because there's no potential chance for latency to make them misfire at different times. I don't know whether that is true with Reaper's inbuilt latency compensation, but it seems what's the word? It seems prudent to just do things that way. And it does seem tighter, actually. Yeah, I've done the MIDI note to trigger thing, but I really like the dynamics that this picks up on. And I can then choose to have it on a sliding scale of dynamic or not dynamic. I really need that in the way that I do. So in the way that I work, it's far more important to me to have that the dynamic response than it is for it to be phase accurate. That's secondary to me. But I can see why that would work. Given that the drums are passing through reinsert, was that a factor on the trigger being versus being outside? I don't know, and that's what got me thinking. Maybe it's happened to me in the box before as well, where misreported latency can cause some strangeness. Yeah. And Bebop says, what were you looking for when you compress snare on the way in? On the way in, I would generally gently compress snare because I'm looking for more attack, usually, if I'm doing that. It's not something I tend to do on the way in. That's why I tend to like have these really spiky waves when I track, even though I didn't track this. This looks like how it would if I had done it, because then you've got a really clean gate source, and the cleaner the gate source, the happier I am, because an easier life I have. I mean, it's so clean a gate source. I didn't even end up using the gate on the snare in the end after all that, because, wow. But interestingly, something I have to keep an eye on is you were saying about the bleed between the snare and the hats. If I listen to the hi-hats and overheads, so much snare, and that's after the tape transient softener thing. There we go. A little bit more of a boost on one side from a cromulent point from Marty in the chat earlier, which I did see, by the way. The one side, this is one of the things about analog audio, is that one of the sides of this chain that I have on the overheads wasn't coming out with as much signal, so I had to use the trim on the top to add about 2 dB there. Just taking a little bit of clicky off the kick there. It's a little bit typewritery in the headphones. I'm not entirely sure what happened with the routing for the Fredenstein Bento, but I think at some point left and right got swapped. So I'm just going to swap the hardware sends around there. Yeah, I mean, quite often if the meters look like one's compressing more than the other, that doesn't necessarily mean much. If one side has a crash smacking away or something and that's compressing more, that's expected behavior. So quite often it's something where I just kind of make a little mental note of it and then just leave it alone. And then if I come back to it later and it does feel like there's some pull on the track in general, then I'll kind of pull that out of the memory bank and go, oh yeah, one of them was compressing a bit more. Right. And then, yeah, so you just kind of have to ride it generally with analog stuff a lot more than digitally. You just have to kind of go, sure. It's part of the fun of it. I like the inconsistencies and the push and pull of analog gear. But yeah, what I'm going to do now, I think I'm happy, is I'm going to go render master mix to here, and 48K is what we're in, and change it to an online render. And we're going to listen through, not entire project, time selection, thank you very much. And we're at 48K and render one file. And this is going to play this all back in real time through the hardware. And it's got a silence gap at the start, which I wanted to make sure that everything lines up with the output. There we go. And then there's just a little outro bit where they'll probably put the end screen over the top of it. And yeah, I am next, before we finish, going to do what we were talking about just in the chat there, where I'm going to take stems of each of these, apart from the overall drums, which has the Alicia X filter, which is a nice EQ, but is just an EQ, which all I can really do. How quickly do I think I would have done this with a button? Probably not much quicker, honestly. I've got so used to doing things this way. So yeah, anything, I'm just gonna bypass soothe on the far mics and go reinsert. Yeah, bypass that and go control click on the things with reinsert on them. And hopefully this works if I just right click and go render stereo tracks. Might work, might not. No, it's trying to do it in. Right, okay. I'll have to do this as a print then. So to do prints, what you can do is, and I'm just gonna make myself some new tracks. I'm gonna do it on the left hand side, which is unusual, but what I can do is just send my no drums there, send my what else have I got that's got inserts, drums, full drums. I may as well get a copy of it, so I'll send that there. Get the far mics, send that there, get tops and send that to there, and reverb send that there. And then if I hit record on all of these, I can change these to be record mode, record output, stereo, latency compensated. This is me printing into the project. The other option would be literally just render stems, but I want these to be in the project, which this just, you know what am I doing? That is the other way of doing it. So I'm just going to do exactly what I just said, because I've just convinced myself it is much easier. I will commit these with the other plugins on, like with Soothe, because I'm probably not going to use far mics. I would have to recall that through the diode bridge compressors. But the other thing is I've got a kind of a Chris Lord-Alge type kind of methodology on this, that once I've found, let's just put $track number and then $track, and then tick the box down here, wherever it is, add rendered items to new tracks in project. And we'll just do that. Where once I've got everything set on a piece of gear, I really shouldn't touch it again. And it should be that way for the rest of its life, and it does that thing. So yeah, now we're just rendering the stems, and you'll see the different stems go here now. Well, anybody who is somehow left, thank you for watching. And yeah, now I'll be taking photos of all the gear and uploading that and